When you're inviting someone over your house and when it's new,
The bathroom
the bathroom,
and the kitchen and wherever you're gonna sit.
So the first time I went over there, it was like he tricked me into going. He's like, "Oh, let's swing by my house real quick." So I'm like, I do not want to go to his house. So we go inside. It smelled like, and I told him this. It smelled like spoiled chicken fat, like had been sitting.
Spoiled chicken fat. Wow, that's very descriptive.
It was the worst, horrible smell, girl, and it was wafting throughout the entire apartment. And he was sitting there, and I was kind of like this the whole time, and he was like enjoying TV, and I'm like, "You don't smell that?" So that was the first time. The first time I went over there, I went in. I needed to use the restroom. I went into the bathroom. There was so much toothpaste buildup in the sink. It was like months. There was Crest. There was the green Crest. There was red close-up. There was white Crest. So it was like different colors of toothpaste buildup in the sink. The floor had so much dust on it that it could have been like a layer of carpet. Of course, I stood up over the toilet. I was like, ugh.
Uh-huh.
Then he's like, "Oh, you want a drink?" I'm like, "Sure." I go in the kitchen, dirty dishes all in the sink. So now I'm like, I don't know if his dishes are clean. I felt like itchy. The living room wasn't clean. So after that, I'm like, I am never going over his house again. So then one day we went out and he was like, "Oh, let's go by my house real quick." And that's when we went over there. It smelled like chicken fat. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I told him, even though my mouth was communicating one thing, he picked up on the body language. If this isn't clean, your butt probably isn't clean. Your mouth ain't clean. Like, I don't want you on me. Are your hands clean? Like, don't touch me with them dirty hands. I said, I didn't think you liked me because you don't clean up. You didn't even clean up when I come over. He's like, "Well, maybe I need to understand your definition of clean." And I was like, "Your house smells like spoiled chicken fat."
Oh, goodness.
I don't even remember what he said after that. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. And then he never, ever, ever spoke to me again. And then I went out downtown one day. I was down there with my brother and somebody else. And I saw him. I was like, "Hey." And he was like, my verbal language could not cover up for the body language. The body language gave it all away. And he's not a dumb guy. He was actually a quite brilliant person. He used to. Oh, wow. I shouldn't say that. I'm gonna take that part out. But he was actually a brilliant person. I just couldn't get past those things, and I'm like, no, this is going nowhere fast.
Oh, I wouldn't have been able to get past that either.
No, nasty. Did I ever tell you about the time that someone took me to a hibachi restaurant and I was making fun of him when we left? So this person took me out. I'm gonna leave the story in here because I hope you hear about it now. This idiot took me out to this really nice restaurant here. It was a Japanese hibachi style restaurant. Beautiful. I have never been back. I want to go again. I was very impressed. I was like, this is nice. So we get in there, we're looking at the menu, and he's like, vegetables. And I'm like, sauteed. And he's like, sea bass. And I'm like, Chilean. And he's like, filet mignon. So I was trying to tell him because I didn't want to be embarrassed because it was hibachi, so it was other people sitting there. When the person came, I just ordered for him because I didn't want to be embarrassed. I'm like, I'm going to have the blah, 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 and he's going to have the sauteed vegetables, the Chilean sea bass, and the filet mignon. So we finished eating. It was great. I get home. One of my friends texted me and he's like, "How was your date?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness." My date couldn't pronounce the words Chilean, mignon, and saute. And I sent it to him. So I was like, why can't you respond yet? What do you think I did?
You sent it to your dates.
Crystal. My heart was like, doo, 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 doo. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I can't believe it. I texted him and I was like, I sent this to him. I'm like, do you think that I could clean this up? He was like, no, man, that's horrible. So I was like, I wrote to him and I was like, ha ha, I'm kidding. I was just messing with you. So then I sent it to Aisha and I was like, Aisha, read this. Would you be offended if someone sent you this? She was like, yes. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, boy.
I was like, I gotta go over his house and delete that out of his phone. So I got dressed. I ran down the steps. I ran around the corner and my mother and her friend pulled up. So I was like, my mother was like, where you going? I was like, let me see what I did. So I told her, I said, now what do you think? Do you think that I can play it off? They were like, no, you're gonna offend me. I was like, so everybody's like, no, you can't play it off. She was like, and then my mother said, she was like, who cares if he could pronounce it? He knew how to pay for it. And I was like,
yes, go ahead. Yes.
I jump in my car. I'm like, I'm flying over there. So I pull up, I call him, and he was like, hey. I was like, hey. He sounded happy, so I was like, I don't think he got it. I was like, I'm outside. And he was like, you are? And I'm like, yeah. So he comes, and he's got on like kind of raggedy clothes, and he has paint splashes on him. He's like, yeah, I'm in here painting. And I was like, you are? He's like, yes. I'm like, oh, he seems too happy he didn't get it. I was like thinking like, how can I get in his phone? He's listening to music and he's painting. I was like, what song is this? And he was like, this is, he's like, I don't know. I was like, well, can I see your playlist? He's like, yeah. His phone. I'm like, I don't know how to work his phone because I've never been in his phone. But then I go to messages and I'm like, okay, so then I find my name. So I hit my name. But I had sent a bunch of back to back messages after it because I was trying to clean it up. So I was like scrolling and then I found the messages where I was talking about it and I was like, and I'm like, I don't know how to delete it, but I'm gonna hold it and see if I can delete. So I held it and it gave you the option to delete. So I deleted it and I put that. So he's looking like, what are you doing on my phone? And I was like, I'm looking at your playlist. I deleted it out of his phone. And then I hung out for a little bit longer and then I left. I was shaking the whole time. I'm like I look at no messages from the other girls. No. But then when I found out how much of a dog he was afterward, I'm like, I wish he had written. For the longest, I kept the screenshot in my phone because it was so funny. But then when I got a new phone, it was gone. So I no longer have it. But girl, that was so funny. Like Lauren was like, oh my gosh, that was a perfect situation. She's like, because most people were like, why are you at my house? First of all, don't just pop in my house. And then why do you want to see my phone? But he was like, hey. And I'm like, can I see your phone and your playlist? He's like, hey. And I'm like,
it was perfect because he didn't know who made the song. That just worked out. Thank God that worked out.